Today I fucked up by kissing my dead grandma on the forehead. Today I fucked up by kissing my dead grandma on the forehead. I, 41F, was fortunate enough to spend the majority of the last 2 weeks with my dying grandma, 89F, who has been in the late stages of dementia. My mom, 71F, had brought her to the family house as she was growing concerned about grandma's care at the nursing home. Mom is a bit of a holistic sort of lady and was hoping a diet of good food and a lot of beet, carrot, green juice might perk grandma up. I hate that grandma's last foods were carrot, beet, spinach juice. I'd probably refuse to drink that too. My sister, 43, former paramedic, had kept a very close eye on her and spent the week helping feed, change, and keep grandma as comfortable as possible. Her body was very frail and only around 90 pounds at the end. She especially became concerned last Saturday as grandma was having increased difficulty swallowing and had been refusing food, juice, water. Aspiration is a very real concern, as is pneumonia from aspirating. After an visit and hospital stay, lab work, CT scans, and swallowing tests, the doctors recommended hospice care. Our family was lucky enough to have my grandma comfortably set up in the great room of my mom's home. We had 5 generations of women with her at the end. Her daughter, my mom, 4 granddaughters, myself included, 3 great-granddaughters, and 1 great-great-great-granddaughter. How cool is that? What folks don't tell you is a deathwatch is pretty fucked up. You sit there counting respirations, checking blood oxygen levels and just waiting. My grandma's last words were on Thursday when she was cursing out my step-sibling that had gotten up in her face shouting, "I love you. I love you." But that is another story for another time. She left shortly after. By Friday afternoon grandma had been completely unconscious for over 24 hours. Her respirations were slowing, blood oxygen levels were below 80. My grandpa, 83M, had come to say his last goodbyes and shit was getting real. By the early evening, she was breathing was quick and shallow as her oxygen levels continued to fall and her pulse increased as her body tried to compensate. We held her hand and waited for the inevitable. It hits nighttime and we are all sharing our favorite stories about grandma. My oldest sister had the best stories. It was so cool to hear more about my grandma's early life. She was a feisty piece of work. A roller derby playing, pot smoking, growing, would hide a body for you, Puerto Rican beauty. Heck, I remember quite vividly how she used a machete as a tool of all trades in the garden and told me she used it for therapy when she was whacking out roots. She would imagine people who had pissed her off or hurt the people she loved and just go all in. Anyway, at 9:17 p.m. she takes her last breath. It was pretty dramatic, to be honest. Not some soft last exhale, but this drawn-in craziness with a gurgling exhale. It was something you'd see in a movie. Had the rest not happened, I would call it borderline traumatic. Of course, people are crying and understandably upset. My RN sister checks all of her vitals and confirms she's gone. At this point, I wasn't crying. It was kind of strange to just watch this happen. It didn't feel real. After a minute my RN sister is calling hospice to let them know she has passed, and I decided that I should go ahead and say my final goodbyes to grandma. I lean down and gently stroke her hair, then tenderly give her a sweet last kiss on her forehead and whisper, "I love you, grandma." This was it. She was gone. No more suffering. She was at peace. Suddenly she breathes in with a breath you hear from folks who just had undergone CPR after drowning. Or maybe the sound of someone who had inhaled too much pot, had been coughing, and then was catching their breath. I don't know, but it was loud, it was quick, and it scared the shit out of me. Y'all need to know that I'm a huge chicken, okay? I don't watch scary movies or even movies that are sort of intense, and I only will watch those during daylight hours. I detest jump scares. At this point, I'm convinced that grandma was trying to take me with her by causing me to have a fright-induced massive heart attack. She tried to scare me to death. The good news is this gets the rest of the family laughing. You know, the stress-induced slight hysteria laughter. It was that. I start sobbing, a full-on ugly cry. It was just a lot of emotion, and that was the tipping point for me. An hour passes and grandma is still breathing, still low oxygen but hanging in there. At the 10 o'clock hour, as we all wait around her, she takes her last breath and softly exhales. It's much more peaceful this time around. Cue in the waterworks of everyone, except for me. I've decided that I don't buy it. This time we have the nurse sister double and triple check her vitals. She's gone. Nurse sister calls hospice again. In my mind, I'm still thinking, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice. I almost said it, but kept it to myself. Then, after a few minutes, she starts to breathe and regains a heartbeat. She had the opportunity to fuck with the rest of them and did. I'm convinced at this point that she is just a spirit in the room laughing at all of us. Q and 11 p.m. of the death watch. I'm exhausted. Everyone is. We are emotionally drained and just spent. I reluctantly go to sleep. I'd been up since 4:30 a.m. only to be awakened by my paramedic sister telling me that Grandma had passed at 11:30 p.m. just as the rest of the group was about to leave for the night. It was 11:47 p.m. when she woke me up. She tells me she waited a good 15 minutes just in case. I know it is not supposed to be funny, but it is kind of hilarious at the same time. I don't know. So this third go-round and all the tears are spent and we just sort of stand there quietly mourning while also wondering what the fuck just happened over the last 3 hours. Too long did not read. My grandma died. I kissed her on the forehead and she jump-scared me as she came back to life only to die again an hour later and come back to life again. Then die for real an hour after that. I watched my 36-year-old best friend pass away similarly just Thursday. Every time we thought he was gone, he'd pop back in with one of those breaths a couple minutes later. Thank you for making me laugh for the first time in 4 days. I wish peace and good memories to you and your family. Just to let you know from my experience working in healthcare for 25 years, this isn't that unusual. All the feelings you are having now are normal, including the laughter and the feeling numb. Sorry for your loss, but this was a delightful read. Sorry for your loss. Sorry, this is not your foo. This is your special story about your feisty grandmother that you can pass on to others. I am a geriatric nurse and we had a patient once who was in this state for a week. She had a pacemaker, and every time she was about to die, the pacemaker brought her back violently. Since then I suggest to everyone with a pacemaker to make a detailed patient's provision, including allowing to take out the pacemaker with a strong magnet. Today I fucked up by exposing myself in front of children and ruining my life. This is a weird one. Posting it here because I need to sort my thoughts out and no way am I telling anybody else I know in real life about it if they don't know already. Anyways, I live very close to a school zone, as in one street over from where it starts. That being said, I see a lot of school buses. That paints a pretty good picture for you already, but I still need to give some background info. My house is right behind one that burned down a few years ago, and is now an empty lot. Ow, if you looked over my backyard fence you'd see an empty yard with some trees and then the street. This will come into play. I really like to paint. It's really my one passion in life that I have stuck with and never got bored of. Lately I have been experimenting with a little LSD. I know a good hookup and get it extremely potent. Never done me wrong in the 3 or 4 other times I've tried it. This time I wanted to do it for the sole purpose of helping my art. It would be a great time, I thought. Take a tab. Make some lemonade, set up some snacks. What could go wrong? So I took the tab and started to sketch some little tree guys. Then I start to wonder why I'm drawing trees while I'm sitting inside. I go grab some cheap watercolors and thicker paper and go sit in the grass in my backyard. Acid always comes on fast for me and I realize I'm on the come up as soon as I touch the grass. 15 minutes into the trip I start drawing patterns on myself because I'm creative, so why would I limit my art to a 2D canvas? I got a bit carried away and ended up coloring every part of me that I could reach. I saw my body painted like an Aztec warrior and I felt like one too. Grabbed a stick for a spear and started making my very best jungle chants. I then asked myself, why am I on the ground? Aztecs lived in trees, of course. One thing leads to another and now I'm balancing on my fence channeling my inner spirits. Suddenly I see a big metal horse with small white-faced people inside across the lot and it scares me so bad that I fall directly split onto the fence, crushing my nuts then out into my neighbor's yard. I then realize that I am looking at a stopped school bus while I am painted head to toe, naked, and on LSD. I stayed curled up on the ground in pain for what felt like hours, praying to the ancient Aztec gods that no kids have seen me or my painted snake before I jump back into my yard and go to bed to wait out the trip. I'm starting to feel better by the time my recently preggo fiancée comes home from work, and I tell her the whole story thinking it was nothing more than a silly goof, but she didn't take it that way at all. I tried to calm her down but she is livid and starts to spout off all of the mistakes and dumb things I have done since I've known her. I assumed she was just mad at the obvious F-up I just did and started to zone out as these lectures aren't uncommon when I heard Steve's name. It took me a second to realize that she just said she had been fucking Steve for the past year before storming out of the house. I went back to my backyard to process what just happened, still painted Aztec LSD patterns when I saw police lights at the house across from the burned-out lot. I think I might be fucked. Nothing has happened with the police yet as of Sunday. I assume because the report is a little too wild to believe, but I still can't get a hold of my fiancé 2 days later and I don't really know what to do. We have joint bank accounts so I'm a bit worried. ATM. Too long did not read. Did acid, painted my whole body and pretended to be an Aztec warrior hunting cheetahs while balancing on a fence, saw a school bus full of children, fell, crushed my balls on the fence, then curled up in pain in front of a parked school bus before going back inside, then found out my fiancé is cheating on me and my unborn kid likely isn't mine. How's your day going? Yeah, sure you did. I think I might be fucked. No, your wife is fucked. By Steve. Take a shower. Yeah, I saw him too. What a fucking weirdo, he hopped the fence and went that way. That was a wild ride for both you and the school bus children. Wow.